Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voices of the Vessel. I'm Shelby, the Director of Marketing for the Badger, the Lake Michigan Car Ferry. This podcast is dedicated to highlighting the people and voices from over the years who have made the Badger what she is today, as she is celebrating 70 years of service. This podcast is brought to you in partnership with Pier Ludington and Visit Manitowoc, our wonderful port cities. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I'm very excited for today's episode and to have the Badger Bingo guy himself, Todd "Scoop" Hansen, our head of entertainment. And if you've ever played Badger Bingo, or if you're from the Ludington area, you probably know Todd and just all the wonderfulness that he brings to our entertainment department in Badger Bingo. So, Todd, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on, Shelby, and good morning. And big ship, more fun.
Exactly. You know what's up. And I think, Todd, you have such a great story here of now, remind me, how many years have you been with the Badger now?
This will be year number 19.
19. How amazing to think. So you would have started right after the Badger's 50th anniversary.
Yeah, I started in the spring of 2005. I retired from the U.S. Navy in August of 2004 after serving 20 years. And came back home, and my first thoughts when I retired from the Navy was going to take some time off, not do anything after retiring from the Navy for at least 6 months. And then, initially I had thought, okay, Ludington Daily News, become a sports writer. Lloyd Wallace had retired.
For sure.
And I was like, I'm trying to think if Lloyd retired before. It was sometime around that time frame where Lloyd had retired. I think he retired actually after I had retired from the Navy. But anyway, I was thinking about possibly working at the Ludington Daily News, and then I got home and I said, well, that's a daily. And I started thinking, well, SS Badger, like Michigan Car Ferry, that sounds like a fun and an interesting job. And growing up in Ludington with the car ferries, with a great history here and growing up with them, I said, yeah, that might be pretty neat. So that's how that all came about.
And correct me if I'm wrong, weren't you a journalist in the Navy?
Yes, I was a photojournalist, a print journalist, and a broadcast journalist. Most of the work I did was in print journalism. I only had one tour of duty in broadcast journalism. That was in Keflavik, Iceland, which was a really neat tour of duty there. I worked at the Navy Broadcasting Service Detachment. And that was my only tour in broadcast journalism. I was mainly in the radio department. I did work a little bit in the television department and a little bit in the news department while there.
Wow, that is so cool. Thank you so much for your service, but so glad that it worked out that you were able to retire and come to the Badger. And so what interested you in the maritime industry, being that you're from Ludington and that you joined the Navy and then eventually the Badger?
Yeah, after 20 years in the Navy, being on 3 ships, I was on the USS Orion, the USS Nassau, and the USS Baton. And the smallest of those ships was the Orion at about 717 feet long. And, coming back to Ludington, of course, with the history and the tradition of the car ferries in Ludington for over 100 years, I said, well, I love being on the water. This could be a fun job. And I can recall Addie Zwick was the human resource director when I was hired. And when I put my resume in and came in and interviewed, and they were a little apprehensive at first because as far as hiring me as an entertainer, because I was the first entertainer hired that was not a singing entertainer. I have basically zero. I basically have zero music talent or ability, musical talents, I should say, or abilities, and a little apprehensive about that. And then they started getting some comment cards back saying, "Hey, this guy Todd, we like the Badger Bingo that he hosts, and we really like the jokes he sprinkles in between games."
How funny! So. And I think that's one of the neat things about Badger Bingo and the entertaining department is that they really encourage each individual to do their own thing and share their own talents. Did you ever think you'd be kind of a stand-up comedian in a way?
Never in a million years did I think that would happen. I said, okay, I'm going to go on board. And I can remember going into it, and Sherry Vandervest, our longtime admin assistant, she goes, get ready, your opening day, to start calling lots of Badger bingo. And I started hearing a lot about Badger bingo before, I was even trained. And little did I know that when I retired from the Navy, and I tell people often on the Badger, they're like, where did you learn? Did I say, oh yeah, and then the Navy prepared me for this. They taught me all about how to be a Badger bingo caller. People get the biggest kick out of the passengers do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is your first memory of the car ferries?
Being a youngster and going down through Stearns Park and watching the Badger come in, or watching any of the car ferries come in at night, being with my family and seeing that. And I always thought it was neat. I said, wow, look at that big boat, that big ship coming in, and just as when I was a little guy, and hearing all about, again, I know I've already talked about it a couple times, but the history of the car ferries here in Ludington. And I can recall the first time I took a car ferry, I think I was in sixth grade, the summer before I became started up junior high school. I think it was either between the summer of going into sixth grade or the summer going into seventh grade. And my mom said, we need to get you on a car ferry because it looks like they're going to be stopping operations here. So I remember going with my youth group from St. John's Lutheran Church and taking the City of Midland 41. And it was it was a trip over and back, and it was to Kewanee, Wisconsin.
Wonderful. And
great memories. So I know I don't mean to get ahead of you here, Shelby. I know you were going to ask a question, which is your favorite of the car ferries. So, I love, obviously, without saying that, goes without the Badger of the 19 years. This will be my 19th year on there. But the first car ferry I ever took, and I have great memories of the City of Midland 41.
No, and that's awesome. I'm so glad you said that. And to me, my family, growing as a Ludington local myself, and my family is always quick to say, well, they're like, sorry, you kind of got the shaft end of this because you only get the Badger, where we had all of the different car ferries. And so many people are quick to tell me, what they loved about the City of Midland, which I think is amazing to honor her history, but especially just the wooden interior and how beautiful that's awesome you got to experience it. But it is surprising in not how many people are quick to, when I ask them their favorite car ferry, they say the City of Midland. So you're in good company.
And it was a beautiful car ferry. I mean, it had a bit of a different. It was designed a little bit differently than the Spartan and the Badger.
And she kind of laid out that framework for them in a way of what they would become.
I want to say, Shelby, I think it was like 4 feet shorter than the Badger or the Spartan, if my memory serves me correct. And another reason why, too, is that, growing up, my dad talked often of, him when he was growing up in Ludington, there were 7 car ferries coming in and out of Ludington.
Exactly.
365 days a year, 24 hours a day, So he remembers, and he grew up down in Fourth Ward, down on 5th Street. And him and, his brothers and sisters, they remember the car ferries, nonstop all the time coming into Ludington, leaving, and Pere Marquette Lake. He spent a lot of time on there as a kid with his brothers fishing and so forth, and watching the ferries come in. Yep.
That's awesome. So after your Navy career, what was it like joining the Badger crew?
It was really neat. I can remember after being hired and then going through the new trainee hiring and so forth, and getting with some of the folks who had been on for a number of years. One of them was Megan Maltby. Another one I remember was Carrie Clem. Those two were two of the main people who trained me as an entertainer when I first started. And I just remember it was a very professional crew. Neil Russell was the director of customer service at the time. And I remember the captains were Captain Dean Hurricane Hobbs and Captain Kevin Fitch at the time. And I remember just getting in there and getting to know people. One of them was Mike Braybrook, who worked as a junior engineer at the time. We come to find out we both served in the U.S. Navy, as well as Chief Bill Kulka, also a Navy veteran. But the really neat thing about Mike Braybrook and I, we served on the same Navy ship, 17 years apart.
Really?
Yeah, the USS Orion, The Orion was a subtender, and when I was on it, it was stationed in La Maddalena, Sardinia, Italy. And Mike and I got talking. He goes, "You were on the Orion?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You were?" So we both found that very, very neat. And then there was one day I remember a passenger came on board who had also served on the Orion, and I remember telling Mike, I said, "Mike, you got to come to the main lounge. There's a fellow shipmate who served on the Orion too." So Mike came up there and they chatted for, I don't know, probably a good half hour, 40 minutes or so.
That's awesome. Well, and I've talked a little bit before too about how the Badger really has that spirit of connecting people, and being that she's here in Ludington, that she really reaches people from all over.
Yeah.
And just what a fun way that she connects everyone.
It's funny, Shelby, because people often ask me, they say, "Well, do you get a lot of people, Todd, from all, Michigan, Wisconsin?" I said, "Are you kidding me? We get most of our passengers from Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, but we have passengers from all over the United States and all over the world for that matter. I have met people from all over the world that have traveled on the Badger. I've met at least one passenger from each state. And, that's pretty neat when I tell people and they say, "Well, when you call it the world famous Badger Bingo," and I said, "Well, a lot of people ask, why is it world famous?" I said, "Well, because people come from not only Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, but people come from all across the United States and the world."
Which is true.
To play Badger Bingo.
True. So where would you say the farthest passenger has traveled to play Badger Bingo?
Well, we've had folks from Japan. We've had folks from Poland. A lot of folks from Europe. A lot of folks from the Far East.
I've had passengers from Germany and the Netherlands that come to mind right away.
We have a lot of passengers. Yeah, a lot of passengers from Germany. We get a lot of passengers from, as you said, the Netherlands. I've met passengers. I mean, you name a country, and pretty much I've met a passenger from that country.
That is so cool.
It's really neat. It's really neat meeting passengers from all across the world. And I said, "You came, I'll be doing my intro to Badger Bingo, and I'll say, how many of you are from like Maine? How many of you are from, I'll name a different state. And of course, again, most of them are from Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. But I'll say, okay, how many of you are from a foreign country? Anybody today here from England? Anybody that's here from Germany?" And you get people raise their hands. They say, "Oh, thank you. We're so honored that you've come all the way from Bulgaria just to play Badger Bingo with us."
Well, it is such a cool visual too, and because the main lounge does get packed. And so what would you say the best part about calling bingo is?
It is interacting with the passengers and enhancing the customer experience for the passengers, making sure they're having a great time on their voyage on the Badger across Lake Michigan. And in doing so, then I'm having a great time. And I always tell new Badger entertainers or employees, no matter where they work, I say, the more fun that you're having with this job, the more fun the passengers are having, the quicker the days just start flying by. I mean,
definitely.
People, I get new trainees come in and, "Oh my gosh, it's a long day. Are we going to be in this early?" And I said, "Well, believe me, once you get acclimated, the days just fly by." And, that's
so
the main thing
true.
with passengers. Yeah, the main thing with the passengers is ensuring they're having a fun time, and giving them that customer experience of, hey, they're going to want to come back. We've got passengers that we see all the time that have been every year that I've been on the Badger. They take the Badger upwards of 5 to 10, 12 times a year.
Oh, definitely. And I have to say, I've called Badger Bingo myself and I enjoy it. And you've created such a great, well-rounded program for it. But there's been times that I've called bingo and people are like, "Oh, we don't get Todd today." And I'm like, "Sorry, you're stuck with me."
And that's not a bad thing. Believe me, Shelby, I know you've stepped in a number of times and have called Badger Bingo for us, and we appreciate that. Another really neat thing, I probably told you this, shared the story with you before. I've been, well, I haven't for a few years now, but I've been to a number of West Michigan Whitecap games in Comstock Park in the Grand Rapids area. And it's happened 2 or 3 times where I've went up to get a soft drink and maybe a hot dog. And I'm going up from where my seats were right behind the Whitecaps dugout. And all of a sudden I hear somebody yell, "Hey, aren't you the Badger bingo guy? And I look back and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, well, we're going to be on in 3 weeks, my wife and I, and I'm like, yeah, good seeing you, just that's kind of neat when you hear that, here you are at Fifth Third Ballpark.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure what it's named now, but you get somebody yelling at you, hey, the Badger bingo guy, aren't you the Badger bingo guy? Yeah.
I guess there's worse things to be known as, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, and I have to ask Todd, can you tell us a joke?
Oh, can I tell a joke? Certainly. What do you get if you cross a rabbit with morning mist?
I don't know.
Hairdo.
That's a good one. I don't think I've heard that one.
That's a new one for this year.
Oh, so it's a new one. Okay.
Another new one this year. Another new one this year, Shelby. Roadrunner phones have speed dial. I mean,
that's good. I like that. Well, and I know a lot of, and that, especially when I've called bingo, people ask me, do you do jokes? And I'm like, sorry, I just can't pull out the jokes like Todd does, that you're like the walking encyclopedia of jokes that we can appreciate.
I've got them and I only need them for usually the first day or two. And then they're in my mind, but I've got like 17 pages double spaced of jokes that my library of jokes. And most of the jokes, people ask me where I get them, and I get a lot of them from the passengers,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I know people have messaged me like via our Facebook page or email, or even when I'm at the grocery store, hey, take this joke and give it to Todd. And it's like, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. Yeah. And my wife is a school teacher, so she sometimes brings me jokes,
fun.
Some of the first students have told her she teaches at Hart at Spittler Elementary and K through 4 Title I reading. So she gets a lot of jokes that way. And I do get
cool.
from, what's the one you get them on, like the little paddle pops here and
like Laffy Taffy candy.
Thank you, Laffy Taffy, exactly. Laffy Taffy. Or sometimes I just go directly to Amazon Alexa. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a good way to do too.
Yeah.
Well, don't tell all of your secrets now.
Okay.
Just kidding. So I know we talked a little bit about the best part about calling bingo, but what would you say is your favorite thing about Badger Bingo?
Again, it's the passengers. It's getting in, and it's funny. After all these years, people say, "Well, you probably heard and seen everything on the Badger." And I said, "I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot. But just when you think you've seen everything and heard everything, you haven't. There's always something new, and it's always neat. You can read your the passengers and
for sure
the amount of the passengers that you have in the main lounge who are going to play bingo, and you can tell if today's going to be more of a day where it's going to be more just Badger bingo and less on the trivia, or some days it's going to be a little bit more on the trivia. But there's definitely one thing, and I've seen it year in and year out, where we've tried to lessen up on the Badger bingo, and it's just that's not going to happen. The passengers just love Badger bingo, and you can't. They want their Badger bingo. In fact, real funny thing, Shelby, when Mr. Mark Barker, our president owner.
Yes.
And I was watching, before I'd even met him, I was watching an interview that Chris Nicholas down at WMOM had done with Mark when the company was first purchased from Bob and Don and Jim Anderson and Don Klingen, Bob Manglitz. And Chris asked Mark, well, what are some of the changes that we're going to be seeing with the SS Badger and Lake Michigan Carp Ferry? And the very first thing Mr. Mark Barker said, well, I can tell you one thing, we're not doing anything with Badger Bingo. Badger Bingo is staying. He goes, I have been bombarded on the webpage, the Facebook page. People say, please don't do anything with Badger Bingo. Please keep Badger Bingo in place. So he got a big kick out of that.
Yeah. And in my role, I think that's one of the big questions, especially and I do quite a bit of traveling, that I was recently in Wisconsin and people, quick to ask oh, what do you do? And I tell them, I work for the Badger. And so many people, the first thing they talk about is like, oh, I played bingo. But I get so many people like, bingo's there to stay, right? Like it's not going anywhere. And especially back to that interview with Mark Barker, one of the things that I thought was funny being that they're an Ohio-based company, people said, do whatever, rename the boat to Buckeye, do what you got to do, but do not get rid of Badger Bingo.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
we're not renaming the boat, we're not doing anything. And, we're so thankful to have a wonderful parent company that, takes care of us, but realize the importance of Badger Bingo. And you said it perfectly, just our passengers make it so easy to want to entertain them that I truly feel like we have the best passengers on the Great Lakes that, they make it so much fun that I've enjoyed calling bingo myself, that, the passengers just make it so easy.
Yeah.
They're so fun.
And Shelby, they come up, and I'm sure they've come up to you as well, too. And at the end of the trip, we're pulling into Manitowoc or vice versa, we're pulling into London. And they're like, oh, thank you so much, Todd. It was we enjoyed ourselves so much. And boy, you just made that 4 hours pass like it was, it went by like the blink of an eye, just like.
Exactly. And there's so many passengers that when they hear, oh my gosh, it's 4 hours across, like, what am I going to do for 4 hours?
Yeah.
And those same people get off the ship and say, wow, 4 hours was not enough. And there's so many people who get so wrapped up in bingo, which is amazing. That's what it's there for. And there's so many people that don't realize there's so many other things to do on the ship because they play bingo the whole time.
Yeah, the entertainers really push that too, about all the other all the other amenities, all the other great things there are to see and do on the Badger, with our gift shop, or going up to the cabana room, or going out for a walk on the deck on a nice day, going up to the bow, going to our movie lounge with our free movies, so many things to see and do.
So many endless.
The Quiet Room Museum, which, is great. A lot of people want to know where to go there. A lot of kids come on too, and some days it's more than others, where the kids and the parents are helping the kids out with the scavenger hunt, or they're doing a number of things. And then we have the coloring captain, where the activity books where the kids can color. 12 and under, the kids can submit their drawing for a chance to win a Badger prize. Again, lots to see and do on the Badger. Yep.
Oh, for sure. And I think one of my favorite memories from when I was calling bingo, it was a couple of grandparents that kept winning. And I mean, they had won like 3 or 4 times. And, by the second and third time, they're like, oh, we're sorry. And I asked them, I said, what are you going to do with all your prizes? And they said, well, we're going to take them home for the grandkids, and they're going to be their Christmas present. But they said, they're going to think it's cool. It's the Badger items. I remember they got a Frisbee and I think a notebook, but they said our grandkids are going to think that we're the coolest grandparents ever because we've won these.
Exactly.
prizes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You talk about that. I had one year, I had these 2 brothers who were sitting together over on the starboard side. And they between the 2 of them, I mean, there wasn't a ton of people in the lounge that day either, but between the 2 brothers, I think they won somewhere between 10 and 12 games of bingo, maybe more.
Oh my gosh.
Boy, you guys are going to start your own Badger souvenir shop, aren't you? And they got a big kick out of that. But you'll get other kids at every game. They won't win, so they'll go up and change their card out, because you're allowed to play 1 card per player.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And I'm always telling people you can change them out at any time, if you don't think you got a good one. But I said the second to last game we always play is worst card bingo. And
right.
People get a big kick out of that one too.
Oh, they do.
It's pretty neat. Yeah.
Definitely. So, what is your favorite bingo prize?
Over the years, we've had a lot of great prizes, and even though we have a lot of those frequent passengers, they'll come back every year. And specifically, this is going to be a huge year, Shelby, because it's our 70th anniversary.
Exactly.
So all these passengers, even these regular passengers we have, they're going to be wanting to win all of these great prizes, where would you have them, with the logo, the 70th anniversary logo. The coffee mug is going to be a huge I'm hit.
Excited about these limited edition coffee mugs we have this year.
Yeah, they're going to be huge, because there are years we have 5 or 6 different color coffee mugs, and a lot of our regulars, they try to complete the set during the season.
Oh, exactly.
Or we've had T-shirts. Well, we haven't had T-shirts for a while, but sailor hats. We've had captain hats in the past. Sailor hats, we're going to get back again this year.
Exciting!
Yeah, the beach totes are always huge too. The navy blue beach totes.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they'll have the 70th anniversary logo on them. I am really excited about the mini fans this year. They are going to be
those
huge.
are fun.
Yeah, we're only going to be giving out one per crossing, but they're going to be a huge hit. And they when they spin around, they light up. We got like fiber optics in the blades.
Mm-hmm.
They light up and they say "Big ship, more fun."
How exciting!
Yeah, people are really going to want to try to get those. That'll be a big hit. I would say over the years, the decks of cards are always popular year in and year out. Everybody loves, the Badger 52 card deck of playing cards. People try to get those, and they're pretty much different. Not every year, but they switch. And this year, of course, we'll have the 70th anniversary. The cards are always a big hit. Coffee mugs, pint glasses. We've had, we don't have the plates anymore. We had those for a few years. That was given away to our Grandmaster champion if they so desired it. And then it's funny, some days, some of the prizes you think would be flying off the table, they don't go as much as other prizes. And you think, okay, this is going to be real popular today. And it's not quite as popular. And then the next day you can't keep them on the prize table.
Yeah, it's so funny how that changes. I think it's so amazing to think of, Badger Bingo is free to play, and these are free prizes. Like, these are amazing prizes that I know you work closely with Val, our gift shop manager, on most of these items, but they have a chance to buy them if they don't win them. But how victorious most of these people are to say, I won this.
Yeah, it's the experience of playing Badger Bingo and winning at Badger Bingo. And I don't know how many people have told me they went back and told their family, said, oh yeah, we took the Badger, and their family wanted to know all about it. What was the highlight? And our highlight of taking the Badger Bingo was winning at the world famous Badger Bingo.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, and just have bragging rights.
Yeah, exactly. You get some grandparents there with their grandkids, and they get competitive against each other.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Well, and especially when I'm talking to people and I say, well, have you sailed before? And say, oh, yeah, I've thought about it, or maybe I have, or maybe I haven't. But I often will say, well, if you haven't experienced Badger Bingo, you don't know what you're missing out on. And I've met people on board like, I don't know if bingo is really my thing. And then they get on board and they get all in.
Oh, yeah.
It's so fun to see those people who are like, I don't know, but then they're like winning, and they're starting chants and cheers with everyone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is on that, Shelby, a lot of times I'll get up there after, I come up and we're underway, and, I maybe helped out with an extra chairlift, or, I've shut the gates, secured the gates, and we're underway, and I come up, and people have already got their cards. They went into the into the container, which says one card, please, one card only, and they're already got their bingo cards. They're in their lucky seat. I don't know how many times I've seen passengers through their third, fourth, fifth trip, and they try to get the same table, same seats. And, they're up there and they're picking out their card with their numbers on it, and they got to have specific numbers and so forth. And, then they go, well, Todd, the four passengers will board, and they'll walk past me. They're like, I'm winning that coffee mug today, or I'm winning that deck of cards, or I'm getting the tote bag, or, a sailor's hat. I said, well, good luck to you. I wish you all the best. And they said, you're going to call my numbers? Or is it, a lot of times when I do pass out cards, because I give passengers the option, they're like, are you giving me a lucky card? I said, they're all lucky at one time or another.
Which is so true.
Yeah. And then I got to hammer home those rules too. One card per player. Be nice to your cards. Don't bang them on the table, and have fun. Those are our 3 simple rules for Badger Bingo right there.
Well, and they're great rules, and it's funny how people, respect that, but then there's people who are like, are you sure I can't get another card? And it's like, you can switch it out, but no, you cannot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what I think is so funny too, and I know you and I have talked about this before, that every now and then you'll find on eBay Badger items, but sometimes they Badger Bingo items, which makes it that much more valuable, apparently, that it was a bingo item.
Anything with Badger on it. Most of the time I'm kidding around, but I do see Badger items up on eBay, and I'll tell people, I'll be like, when I'm describing the prizes, I said, well, I just saw this one on eBay this morning. It was going for this deck of cards was going for $50, just joshing the passengers. But it's like, you often see stuff on there if it's, and especially if it's unopened, if it's like an unopened deck of cards or so forth. Anything that's got the Badger logo on it, very, very popular. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. It makes me laugh because, they could buy it from the gift shop if they like, but something about it being a bingo prize makes it much more valuable.
And we tell the passengers too, we said, most, not all, but most of these prizes you see on this bingo table up here are available in our gift shop. And a lot of times I feel bad because the person playing Badger bingo, they'll head back to the gift shop, but they won't head back till we're like 5 minutes out of Manitowoc or Ludington.
Oh, yeah.
And, so we have gotten better. The entertainers of like, folks, you want to get back there, go there on your break, on the intermission break from Badger bingo. You got to do it before we're 5-10 minutes out of port, because the gift shop usually closes, for that. So, yeah. So we try to make sure we let the passengers know that you definitely want to get back to the gift shop before we get into Manitowoc or Ludington.
For sure. And so we've obviously, Badger bingo is the big story today, but what is your favorite Badger bingo memory that you have? This might be a broad question.
I've got a lot of them. Yeah, as you would imagine, after 18 years, some of them revolve around days that were a little rougher out on Lake Michigan,
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say one of the favorite memories of Badger bingo, and again, there are many. One that sticks out here, back on September 20th of 2018, Weldon Weldy Olson, who is now 90 years old. Wow. He was a member of the U.S. men's Olympic hockey team in 1956 and 1960. 56, the U.S. won the silver medal at the Winter Olympics. In 60, they won the gold medal. Everybody thinks of the 1980 team, how much fanfare the 1980 team gets. And that's what made me really become a hockey fan, was that 80 team that won the gold medal, the Miracle at Lake Placid. But the 60 team as well won the gold medal. And Weldon Olson was a player on that team, and he came on board the Badger. And I had talked with him on the phone a few times prior to him. And that was the first time I had met him in person, was that morning. He brought his gold and silver medal with him.
Wow.
And he was eating it up. I mean, he was loving it. He was with his wife, and they had a younger couple there helping them to get around and so on and so forth. And, they took the Badger over, and he did not mind at all me. Sometimes when we do have a celebrity on board, I got to watch, because, they don't want a lot of attention brought to them. Well, Weldon was loving. People were going over, posing for photos with him, talking with him, and I thought that was really, really neat. And he had a grin, big ear-to-ear grin on his face. And
you always do such a good job of welcoming people on board, because you are kind of that first experience at time, or one of the first experiences that people have with interacting with our crew. But how cool that you get to know a lot of these people and follow up with them, or before or after their trip too. Yeah,
we've had on, people often ask, you run into a lot of celebrities and stuff. I've met a few nighttime workers, usually the nighttime entertainers. They meet more like, sometimes the Green Bay Packer football players will be on board. Was able to meet former Green Bay Packer offensive coordinator Sherm Lewis and chat with him a bit.
Oh, cool.
That was neat. He came on, and I said I was just happened to be down with the purser at the time, and he walked by with his wife. I said, I think that was Sherm Lewis, former Green Bay Packer offensive coordinator. So I went up to him. I said, I'm not trying to bring a lot of attention, but you're Mr. Sherm Lewis, aren't you? And he goes, yeah. So we chatted a while. That was really neat.
How cool.
Another one, Shelby, that sticks out is former NASCAR driver Johnny Benson and his wife.
Oh, yeah.
Kids were on board a number of years ago. I face painted that's when we were doing face painting. I actually face painted both of his daughters' faces. Didn't know they were Johnny's daughters at the time, and
how crazy.
His wife, I go up and meet Johnny. I'm talking with him for a while, and I go, I'm not trying to bring a lot of attention. And his wife goes, oh yeah, that's the gentleman there that face painted both of our daughters' faces there. And I said,
I just say that about just anyone. Of like, I got to meet them and face paint their kids.
Yeah. And he's from the Grand Rapids area originally, Marne in that area. And I said, hey, I just want to come up and shake your hand. I'm a big fan of yours. And I said, by the way, you had a photo of me on your webpage some years back. It was right after they had a photo of me holding the 9/11 flag that was flown in New York from my last when I was on the USS Baton, after 9/11.
Wow.
And he goes, "Oh, that was you." And I said, "Yeah." So we got chatting a bit about that. So meeting Johnny Benson was really neat. One of my
What a
favorite.
full circle moment. That is awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
I know I said it earlier and I'll say it a million times again, just that the Badger has just the spirit about her to connect people and, bring people into our lives. What a cool, full circle moment for you. That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, it was really neat last year, Shelby, and you had a lot to do with this, was meeting the Manitowoc ship's head football coach.
Yes. Oh, and yeah, they were such a wonderful team and so fun to have them come on board. And now, so the last 2 years we've had Ludington and Manitowoc play in soccer for the Car Ferry Cup. And now we're starting an annual tradition with Manitowoc and Muskegon area schools for a Battle of the Badger for a football.
Yeah, they played Mona Shores last year.
Yes.
I believe, Mona Shores. And I know also you are heavily involved with the Mason County Central Spartans cross country.
And that has been such a fun and special project to, and obviously the Badger connects these two communities of Ludington and Manitowoc, but beyond. And what a fun thing to be a part of seeing these young athletes come across and get to do this annual thing every year. And I've gotten to know both teams I enjoy sports myself, but it's been really humbling just to see these young people coming to and from our community. But what another great chapter of how the Badger connects our communities, because and especially working with the Manitowoc football team was so fun and so enjoyable. But one of the cool things that you can say from your job on the Badger is your football helmet collection.
Yeah, definitely. And I have added on, the Badger has helped me add on to that collection by meeting coaches from around the state of Michigan, football coaches. And also I got a Manitowoc helmet this past year from the Manitowoc head coach. And, it's funny you talk about that because a lot of times somebody will come on and they'll have on like a school shirt or a jacket or so. And I'll say something like, Durand, you're from Durand, home of the Railroaders. And even when we have somebody who wins at bingo, they'll mention a town they're from in Michigan. Somebody will say, well, I'm from Gwinn in the Upper Peninsula. Oh, Gwinn, home of the Model Towners. And they'll look at me. Most of the time, they just take a step back. They look, their eyes get really big. How do you know that? I said, well, I follow Michigan football quite closely. And I said, that's one of the helmets I'm after and I don't have yet. And then I talk a bit about my helmet collecting. And somebody in the audience will say, well, I know the coach or I know the athletic director. I can help you out. And this also goes back, Shelby, to the Badger helped me actually get started doing public address announcing at Ludington High School not long after I retired from the Navy. My first year I'm working there, Rick Catt, who was my 6th grade teacher at Franklin Elementary, came on. He goes, my gosh, Todd Hansen. He goes, are you retired from the Navy? I said, yes. He goes, I'm at the top of the stairs greeting passengers. And he's like, are you still a sports fanatic? You always were? I said, yes. He goes, I've got a job lined up for you. And he started me that spring the next spring he started me, it was, I think, 06. I started doing Ludington varsity baseball games, doing their public address announcing, which led to doing the basketball public address announcing, running the scoreboard first and then the public address announcing, which then led to Rod Beckman asking me if I'd be interested in taking over and becoming the voice of Ludington football in 2010, which I didn't in 2010, but I did in 2011. And then with Rod's health issues, it led to taking over basketball eventually as well, doing the play-by-play. And I've been doing football for Ludington since 2011, the play-by-play and basketball since I did 7 games in 2012 and took over full-time in 2013, doing the girls and boys basketball games. So not
only are you known as the Badger Bingo Guy, but you are known as the voice of the Ludington Orioles.
The voice of the Orioles.
And I didn't realize, and I guess I should have, I knew you did both and that you're well respected in both arenas, but I didn't realize, and I guess I should have thought more about it, that the Badger helped you become that voice of the Orioles.
The Badger did. It led to all this. And in the spring now, Shelby, this is my 9th year as an assistant varsity baseball coach for Ludington, something else I really enjoy. And also I'm heavily involved with the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame. I've been a board member with them since 2011. And when Dan Neal, the former vice president, when he left the board of directors, I became the vice president with that organization, which I really enjoy as well, too. Yes.
Well, and I know we always talk so much about how, it's so easy to like work at the Badger and how much fun we have. But I think everyone has a neat story, too, of how the Badger has helped them, grow in other areas of their life and just things that they've done and learned that. What a cool, and especially being from Ludington. And I mean, and I know community is a big thing for you, but how cool that you can have that community aspect, in your other parts of your life, but especially at the Badger, that we really appreciate that for sure.
If I'm on the Badger, people ask, a lot of times I'll say about the Orioles, I'll say, oh yeah, I bleed orange and black. And with the Badger, I guess I should say I bleed black and white, the colors of the Badger. But,
no, that's perfect.
I've talked, Shelby, a lot about, my favorite thing is the passengers. And, 99.9% of our passengers who are on board are looking to have a great, fun time.
Yes, indeed.
Usually it's even more, the percentage is actually probably higher than that, what I gave you. But, and we help enhance that. But also, I got to say, too, that I've had great structure. All the years I've worked down there, all the people I've worked with, the departments, all the fellow crew members, you get to know the folks in engineering department, the folks in the deck department, navigation, and then, of course, your fellow customer service employees that you work with. And we have a lot of turnover every year, but we also have a lot of folks that I've been working with for a long time. In fact, I think the only person in customer service right now that has more years down there than me is Val Stapleton, our gift shop manager.
Oh, yep. Yeah, she's been here since 97.
Yeah.
And I think you really touched on it perfectly, said of, there's so many ages and stages of people that the Badger has a great structure to it. I love that word. In that, there's something for everyone to be a part of the crew, but there's so many different departments, but how the departments overlap and work together. I think it's a really fun story in and of itself of, like you talked about, you are the head of entertainment, but you get to work with engineers, you get to work with customer service, you get to work with shore staff. And even I know when we go over to Manitowoc, the people over there always look forward to seeing you as well, that it is such a unique job in that, we have of folks who are retired, folks who are in college, summer jobs, things like that, where we have some people who work all season or just the high parts of the summer, that it is definitely a unique scenario.
And it's not just the folks, the folks from the Michigan side, it's the folks from the Wisconsin side as well that work at the ticket office over there that you've had, you strike up a friendship with and you see year in and year out. And even, the passengers from that side too. I remember a few years back, Shelby, I don't know if you had the opportunity to meet the Manitowoc Mafia, but what a great group of guys, and I think they've all passed now. I don't think, they would be there, 4 or 5 days a week, watching the Badger come in, and just a great group of guys over there. And I actually felt great. I actually gave them the nickname, the Manitowoc Mafia, and there were stories done on them on both sides by, Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because I actually came across that article recently and saw that I'm so glad you brought this up, that you gave them that nickname. I believe most of them have passed away, except one name I did recognize, but the gentleman is still alive, that I'll have to put you in touch with him. But that's definitely the one cool thing of, and I feel confident and comfortable saying this, being a Ludington native, of Ludington absolutely loves the Badger, but you go across to Manitowoc and they absolutely positively love the Badger over there as well. And, and she kind of has a following wherever she goes, which, obviously physically it's just between Ludington and Manitowoc, but even beyond. But I've heard so many wonderful stories about the Manitowoc Mafia and how, they would be there faithfully almost every day of the week, just watching her come in and welcoming the crew, and that community part of what the Badger brings together in people, I think is such a powerful thing.
Yeah, they were some of our biggest advocates, biggest supporters, and
Mhm.
I always enjoyed going down. When the Badger would get in and all the passengers were offloaded, and get maybe a 5 to 15 minute break, and I go down and chat with them, and they were really neat guys.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I know we've already talked a lot about like our favorite things, but what would you have to say is your favorite thing about the Badger?
Oh, wow.
I know. Sorry, I'm hitting you with so many good big questions today.
Again, it goes back to the passengers, getting to know passengers, meeting different people from all across the U.S. and the world, but also goes back to the folks I work with. And I know we just hit on that a little bit, Shelby, too. Lots of good people, struck up some new friendships with coworkers over the years. And, another great thing about the Badger is how good we eat.
Oh, yes. Cannot forget that. I would have to completely 110% agree with you that, the passengers and the people we work with are amazing, but we really have to give our hats off to the galley crew for making sure that we eat well. And I joke with them. I was like, the days I'm on board, I have to keep walking around the ship because I eat so good.
Yeah. They always got delicious cookies out, which
yes,
always tempting. I walk past, you walk through the galley, and it's like, oh my gosh, should I, should I have a cookie now, or I better walk past and not
ration the cookies throughout the day?
Yeah, when I interview new prospective entertainers, it's one of the things I always bring up is about our benefits, Shelby, and the 20% the employees get in the gift shop, and
definitely.
Our pass that we get, and all the great incentives. And I said we eat, and I really hit on the fact that we eat really well. And I said, if you starve on the Badger, it's your own fault because they really take good care of us. Yeah.
Yes, they definitely take care of us. That is for sure. So with the Badger celebrating 70 years in 2023, how does it feel to be a part of that legacy?
It feels great. I mean, it's something that I'm very honored to have been working on there. Like I said, again, this will be my 19th year. And I do remember the 60th.
Yes.
The 60th anniversary and how popular those prizes were for Badger Bingo and trivia and so forth. That the 60th anniversary logo on it. I can only imagine this year with the 70th. But 70 years, you think about that, Shelby, and it makes you think of all the folks who have worked and been a part of not only the Badger, but the car ferries in Ludington and this great tradition of over 100 years in Ludington, and it's pretty, it's a big thing. It's a neat thing. And I feel really great to be a part of it.
Definitely. Well, we're so glad to have you a part of it. And I know the passengers would say the same thing. But before we go, I have to ask, can you tell us one more joke?
I sure can. And I had one lined up for you specifically. Where do lions bathe?
Where do lions bathe? I don't know.
In the mainstream.
That's a good one. Oh gosh, I love it. That I know our passengers will be looking forward to the new anniversary year jokes as well. So.
By the way, again, I'm excited. Like I said, those 70th anniversary prizes we're going to have out for Badger Bingo this year. People are going to be after them. And I know we talked about the fan, and that's going to be a big one. The cards, decks of cards, the coffee mugs. Val and I've already talked about that. So a lot of the same prizes we've had in the past, but again, with the 70th anniversary logos emblazoned on them, they're going to be a huge hit, and it's going to be another fun year. And again, that goes back to our adage, big ship, more fun.
Exactly. Well, it'll definitely be a wonderful year, and May will be here before we know it. And we're just so excited to get the season kicked off. Thank you, Todd, so much for your time today. And thank you for all you do and taking care of good care of our passengers that I know we're all looking forward to getting back to sailing, but back to some Badger Bingo. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Thanks for the kind words, Shelby, and looking forward to seeing all those Badger passengers this season on the big ship. More fun. Thank you.
And now a word about our partners in our port cities. If your idea of the perfect vacation is sugar sand beaches, clear blue waters along 28 miles of Lake Michigan shoreline, outdoor adventures, climbing to the top of historic lighthouses, or exploring a charming downtown, Ludington is your destination for pure Michigan fun. Ludington's unspoiled natural resources offer the quintessential up-north experience, all within easy reach, located at the intersection of US 31 and US 10. No matter what you're seeking, a beach or outdoor adventure, a peaceful getaway, or just a community of friendly faces, you can find it all in pure Ludington. As a Ludington native, I know I sound biased, but Ludington is truly an astonishing place. There's always something going on, amazing places to dine and get drinks, along with unique attractions you won't find just anywhere. Plan your visit today at pureludington.com. Manitowoc, the maritime capital of Wisconsin, is the perfect vacation destination for those seeking adventure, a little relaxation, or a whole lot of fun. With sandy beaches, miles of biking and hiking trails, a real World War II submarine that you can both climb aboard and sleep on, a strong art scene, variety of breweries to explore, and array of annual events and festivals, Manitowoc offers so many unique and exciting options for visitors to add to their travel itinerary. As a frequent visitor to Manitowoc, I can attest to the thriving and charming downtown. From classic candy and ice cream parlors to outdoor music venues, there's so much to explore, experience, and enjoy in Manitowoc. I always look forward to going back. Start planning your getaway to Manitowoc, Wisconsin at visitmanitowoc.com.